Captain Alejandro Franz of the Mexican UFO research group Alcyon decided to investigate for himself. Franz is a sort of skeptical believer. Though he thinks UFOs have visited Earth, he feels that investigators must rule out all alternative explanations before reaching a conclusion.
I have been investigating these things because almost 90% of the times they are not UFOs. They are human-made, or they are planets or asteroids or many other things that can be identified.
A pilot himself, Captain Franz wants to recreate the flight path of the military plane. Then, at the point where the crew encountered the UFOs, turn the plane directly toward the UFO sightings, because he thinks the objects might still be out there. The plane takes off from Villahermosa and climbs to 11,000 feet, heading almost due east.
We are now at the same altitude that the airplane was. So now we need to go to the first track point and go east, following the track until 89 degrees west longitude to keep the same track of the military plane.
The plane reaches the first point of contact with the UFOs. Franz instructs the pilots to head northwest, the same direction that the infrared camera was pointing. He's seen lights out that way before and thinks he knows exactly what the military was tracking.
I have been flying and crossing the Gulf of Mexico hundreds of times. These lights in the Gulf of Mexico are seen all the year, almost by night. Any pilot could see them in good weather conditions and good visibility. You could see them from 140, 150 miles out.
About 60 miles out from shore, and nearly 100 miles from the last contact point, Franz spots what he's been looking for: the massive offshore oil well complex known as Cantarell. Even at 15,000 feet, the structures appear enormous. Drilling platforms can be as high as 40 stories. The flames, which can reach hundreds of feet, are caused by burning off excess gas to reduce pressure on the wells.
So they are there. I felt happy because I was confirming my theory. It's completing part of my investigation, and it's giving me support to keep investigating more.
Franz feels sure that this is the source of the infamous UFOs. But could these fires really have registered some 100 miles away on a military plane's infrared surveillance system? And why do they appear to be flying? Jim Seffron seemed to be the guy to ask. He teaches and certifies infrared technicians and uses the technology himself to examine oil refineries and oil well platforms.
First of all, we haven't established that these objects are flying. Some might get a sense here that the objects are moving. In fact, this is an optical illusion which is created by the clouds moving with respect to the objects, not the other way around. It's likely that what we're seeing is a very hot source of heat. And in this case, since we're out over the ocean, a reflection of that heat off of the surface of the ocean. It could be the flame and some of the smoke, or it could be just the flame. I would like to believe that there may be UFOs, but I just don't see evidence of that here.
It's one thing to refute cold clinical evidence of UFOs captured on video or infrared. It's an entirely different thing to deal with compelling first-hand testimony of contact with aliens, especially if that contact is utterly brutal, with terrifying implications. What are we to make of people who have vivid memories of being abducted and subjected to bizarre medical and sexual procedures? If abduction scenarios are real, and advocates claim that millions of people show signs that they are, then a sinister threat beyond anything humans have imagined is upon us. But is it real? For the past 50 years, thousands of people have come forward to report that they have been abducted by aliens. But abduction proponent David Jacobs thinks this is just the tip of the iceberg, based on a survey he helped conduct in 1992.
If you ask people, have they been abducted, about 1 million will say yes. But in fact, most people don't know that they've been abducted because the phenomenon is forgotten almost as soon as they return from the event.
Apparently, the extraterrestrials try to block people's memories of the abduction, but it's an imperfect block. Hypnosis, Jacobs says, can unblock those memories.
Some people remember parts of abductions, they remember sequences of abductions, and they remember whole abductions. Hypnosis, for reasons that we do not understand, sort of opens the gates, and suddenly people start to remember the long-term memory that is remembered in an odd way for the first time. So the only way that they've been able to remember this is by getting into a really relaxed, focused, psychological state.
What they remember is remarkably similar. Pam's experience is typical. She finds herself awake but immobilized in bed. Small gray beings conduct her up to a waiting spacecraft. There, she joins others in a waiting area.
Oftentimes I look around and I think that the other people that are sitting there look like they're really out of it. And Dr. Jacobs will tell me, well, they're probably looking at you thinking that you're really out of it too.
Sometimes there are lessons. Sometimes there are physical examinations, and worse.
The little gray guys are the escorts, and they're just little guys, and they have big eyes, and they're very, very thin. Then there's the taller ones that look like them, but are more intellectual. Generally, it starts with a staring procedure, and they stare at you, and the staring procedure lasts for a long time, and all you can see generally are these huge eyes, and you're lost in it. Sometimes it's an information dump, sometimes they're doing physical things to you. Sometimes while they're doing that, someone is putting an instrument up one's nose or in the ear. And sometimes it's very painful. Sometimes they botch it.
And sometimes things turn truly sinister.
People have sperm taken, eggs taken, fetuses implanted in them, removed from them.
Well, what I believe happens, and even at my age happens still, is that they take an embryo, which is a combination, once again, of us and them, and they insert it in us, and we carry it for about 10 weeks, and then they take it out. And then what they do with it, I've seen where they have bottles, these big bottles, and then they have these little ones suspended.
Pam is not alone. Thousands report nearly identical memories. Awakening to find a light streaming into the bedroom, a feeling of paralysis and terror, levitation and transport to the examining room of a spacecraft by small gray humanoids, and examination by a much taller alien. How could so many people who do not know each other come up with such detailed and similar stories?
What that does suggest is that there is a common conception of what an alien abduction involves, from films, from TV shows, from written accounts. So the notion that because these people report similar things, this is an actual shared true experience is simply fallacious.
And then there is the method used to get to the memories, hypnosis. For a long time, hypnosis was thought to be a near magical window into people's memories. More recently, it's been discovered that hypnosis may be far more effective in creating memories than retrieving them. In a state of hypnosis, people are highly suggestible and eager to please the hypnotist, as anyone who has seen a hypnosis stage act knows.
You know what? I'm looking right now. This lady right here has your canary. You might want to go and ask for it back. Go and ask her to give you your canary back right now. I have my canary back. Please.
This can be quite entertaining when done in fun, but has the potential to do enormous harm in therapy. Dr. Susan Clancy has spent 6 years working with people who've recovered memories of UFO abduction while under hypnosis. She is certain that these so-called memories were created in therapy, not uncovered. Recent studies have shown that highly suggestible people will produce whatever memories the hypnotist is asking for.
So everyone put your sun cream on now. Make sure you cover your arms, cover your face as well.
The truth is, you're susceptible to cues that are given to you by the environment or by the hypnotist himself.
You might want to wrap your arms around you. You might want to huddle up. You're feeling colder and colder and colder.